Sorry for the somewhat delayed start, but welcome finally to Sports World Have Your Say with me, Amanda Davis. It's been pretty quiet around the corner from here at Loftus Road, with international action dominating this week, but that's certainly not been the case at all the Premier League grounds. Coming up,
England fans can go home tonight, and for one night we can say that we've beaten the world champions.
One night wonders, or more than that. We're reacting to this weekend's internationals, including England's victory over the world champions Spain.
We played two completely different styles of football today, and the more defensive one won.
More Tevez trouble. We're talking player priorities. Is there now an I in team?
And so to their own ground at St James's Park, with 50,000 cheering as Joe and his team make their way round the ground.
And rewriting the ground rules as Newcastle renames St James's Park. How far is too far in the quest for sponsorship?
It's absolutely disgusting. I'm not happy with it at all.
There's more to football than money.
Yeah, there's plenty of emotive stuff on the agenda this week. Blackburn's Jason Roberts thought he might have a week off with the international break, but not so. We've dragged him into the studio and he's waiting to talk to you, so make it worth his while. Please do get in touch and have your say. Why not give us a call on the usual number, +44 20 70 83 73 33, or why not send us a message on Twitter at BBC Sportswise, or on Facebook, where the conversation is already well underway. Jason, what are the other things we're going to be talking about this week? In tribute to England manager Fabio Capello, who missed his son's wedding for the sake of England's friendly against Spain, is what have you missed in honour of football? What's your biggest miss in life?
Well, there's been quite a few family events I've had to miss. Every year, possibly the one that sticks in the throat a little bit is Christmas, because obviously you're either training or you're travelling. But, I've heard of players missing the birth of their children, missing funerals even. So, you want to be there for your teammates, don't want to let them down. But, of course, it is really tough to take that into your life.
Yeah, a few people have already got in touch with us on Facebook on this issue. Oyenloy Femi Bade on Facebook says, I broke up with a girl because of my team. Chelsea's my team. Except church and illness, nothing can stop me from watching Chelsea. And Speed Derman on Facebook said, I did miss my final college exams for the 2011 FA Cup semi-final match between Manchester City and Manchester United. What have you missed because of the love of the beautiful game? Please do get in touch with us. But we are going to kick off this week's programme with International Week. There's been European Championship playoffs, preliminary qualifiers for the World Cup in 2014, and a whole host of friendlies to talk about as well. How do you feel your national side is doing? I'm pleased to say that Mohsin is with us, a Newcastle fan in London. Jonathan's a Chelsea fan in Israel who also joins us on Skype. And we are going to start with the defeat of the world champion Spain to England. 1-0 it finished at Wembley. Jason, how big a result is that all in all?
I think it's a huge result. Obviously, with the championships coming up, I think it gives England a real opportunity to look at the sides. And what they did was they played really well against a team that, from my point of view, is the best national team in the world. Spain play a certain brand of football which is tough to deal with, but England done well. They defended well and they got that goal. They had a little bit of luck, and I think this will make them think that they can go to the championships and maybe challenge.
Mohsin, what did you make of what you saw?
I think it was a great result. You can't take that away from anyone. The fact that you beating the world champions is fantastic. It's great for confidence. But I think you have to look at it with an air of caution as well. England played very defensively, effectively. Well, that was one of the main criticisms from the Spanish media, the fact that England basically parked the bus. They were playing very Italian-type football. And from one point of view, that's good. You need to be able to adapt to your game. But I do think you need to take this result with a bit of a pinch of salt, just because it was a very defensive performance. England didn't play the way I'd expect England to play consistently. So I think there's definitely room for improvement, but great result. So take confidence from that and push on from there.
Jonathan, do you take it with confidence but a pinch of salt?
Well, I think it was a masterful defensive display for 90 minutes. I thought there was an incredible amount of concentration from the defence. But on the ball, whenever the Spanish pressurised the England players, especially in the first half, we looked very uncomfortable. But a win is a win, and we had 3 shots on target and scored 1. They had 3 and didn't. So 1-0 to England. That's all that matters.
Yep, and that was the response of the England captain for the night, Frank Lampard. Let's have a listen.
It was a difficult game. We didn't outplay Spain, but I think we had to understand with Spain that they are such a great team, a footballing team, and we defended our commitment, our desire to put ourselves on the line throughout the game. We're by no means getting carried away with ourselves. We know that we gave away a lot of possession at times, but no, we're very proud. I'm very proud to lead the team out and to score the goal, but I'm very proud of the performance and the fact that England fans can go home tonight and for one night we can say that we've beaten the world champions.
It's really interesting to hear that from Frank Lampard there. From my point of view, there's no doubt that England were playing a better side, and there's no shame in that. Spain are the best side in the world. What you need to do is find a way to beat them. And you saw with Man United against Barcelona, they found it very hard to get out, but certainly they defended well and they conceded and they lost that game. In this particular game, I think England defended well, won the game. And at the end of the day, you've got to look at that as a huge positive, because that's the main thing. And if this was in a championship, they'd be going through.
Is that the thing? It's a boost not just for England, but for other people to show Spain can be beaten.
I think you look at Spain and Barcelona, who play very similar. I think the key thing is there is a way to beat them. It's often not very pleasing on the eye. It's not open, free-flowing football, because I think if you try to play football against Spain, invariably you're going to lose. What England done was they found a way to get the job done, and all credit to them.
OK, well, let me welcome David to the programme. He's a Manchester City fan based in Spain. How was it for you based in Spain last night?
Well, Spain is playing very bad the friendlies, and right now I think that England made very, very good work at defence. But in Spain we have some problems right now. Mata and Silva is playing under his possibilities now, and I think that the forwards, Villa and Torres, were playing very bad right now at Barca and Chelsea.
Do you think in a tournament that Spain would have upped their game and maybe would have won that?
What? Can you repeat, please?
Just repeat that again.
Do you think that in a tournament that Spain would have actually won that game?
Well, I'm sorry, I don't understand you.
OK, I'll say slowly. Do you think that in a tournament Spain would win against England?
Yeah, sure. I think Spain, it's playing right now like Barca. Barca is playing under his level right now. Madrid now it's better. And I think that Spain in a real tournament at Euro, I think that it could beat England.
But David, I was lucky enough to be at Wembley last night, and when England's goal went in, I turned to the people I was sitting next to and we said, oh no, this is where Spain are going to crank through the gears. And how worrying is it that they didn't or couldn't?
I think he could. He made Villa make a wood, and we play with the Fabregas at second half. We play better, but we couldn't connect the game and tie the match at least. But I feel happy for England. They have a lot of City players then, but that's good. I don't have, and I like Spain and England.
We have actually got a little clip from Cesc Fabregas speaking after the game at Wembley.
Yeah, disappointing result, but I think we played well. We saw that we dominated the game, and we made England defend nearly the whole 90 minutes. So we played two completely different styles of football today, and the more defensive one won. But we know that the only way they could score is from a free kick or a corner, and we conceded a not very intelligent free kick there. So we paid for it, but basically we are happy because we played very well.
So that was the view of Cesc Fabregas. Carlos has actually posted on Eurosport saying it was a good defensive display by England, but the rest of Europe shouldn't get too excited when it comes to crunch time. Just like Barcelona, we know what Spain can do to their team. And Roberto has also posted on the Football Rascal blog saying, after seeing Scott Parker close up this season, I defy any football fan of the Premier League club to say that they wouldn't want him in. And I suppose, Jason, from an England point of view, there were a few players who stepped up to the mark.
Without a doubt, I think Scott Parker certainly was one of them. He's really been a revelation this season. Going to Spurs, I think, has kick-started his whole career again. Certainly the way he manoeuvred the ball, the way he linked midfield and attack, although I didn't get much opportunities to attack, but certainly defensively putting a lot of tackles and had a fantastic game. Also, I thought Joleon Lescott was fantastic on the day as well.
OK, Jason, thank you for now. Please do get in touch with us. We're talking player power in a couple of minutes. Hello, you're watching Sports World Have Your Say with me, Amanda Davis. Loads of people getting in touch with us. We've got calls coming in so far from Nigeria, Jamaica and Somalia. But we're going to talk this week, or about the talk this week amongst Newcastle fans about the price of history. More on it in a second. But first, let's have a look at a little bit of a nostalgia from the news archives.
As the London train draws in, it's a big moment for Newcastle. Joe Harvey is back with a cup, and nobody can hear what the Lord Mayor's saying, but as a club director, he's just as excited as the whole town. In winning the cup 2 years running, the United have done something that hasn't been done since Blackburn did it 60 years ago. And so to their own ground at St James's Park, with 50,000 cheering as Joe and his team make their way round the ground.
So glory days for Newcastle, bringing home the FA Cup in 1932, and today's Magpies should also have a glint in their eye at the moment, riding high in the English Premier League, third in the table and unbeaten. But there's been discontent with owner Mike Ashley's decision to override 119 years of history and rename St James's Park, as well as Jason Roberts with me in the studio. We've got Pat, who's a Spurs fan in Cyprus, and Rob is a Newcastle fan in Milwaukee, who's joined us on Skype. Rob, why are Newcastle fans getting so heated?
Well, like you said, St. James Park, that has been the name of Newcastle United's ground for 119 years. So changing the name is something that's going to infuriate a lot of supporters. And Ashley's excuse behind it, saying that it'll help us compete with the bigger clubs in England, I think is a lie, because it'll bring us maybe 8 or 10 million pounds more a year. But how much money does a team like Manchester City have? Billions of pounds. And I don't think that questioning the integrity of the club by changing the name of the ground is something that's really gonna get us to that elite level of English Premier League.
But you've got to give Mike Ashley his dues. Newcastle United, with all due respect, don't have the fan base of Manchester United or Chelsea. They don't have the deep pockets of, say, Manchester City. Where else is he going to get his money from?
It's a good point, but I mean, going back to the fan base, our stadium's bigger than Stamford Bridge of Chelsea's. It's the third largest ground in the league, so obviously we're getting just as much money as the big clubs from ticket revenue. So I'm really not sure what it comes down to. Ashley has done a good job, though, of making the club more financially smart, because we're not working at a deficit now, like virtually all the other Premier League teams are. So there is reason to keep your head up high if you're a Newcastle United supporter.
Are you happy for this to happen if you can compete with other clubs? Obviously, this has not brought you massive revenue this time, but if it did bring more revenue, is this something you'd be happy and where you'd be happy for the club to bring money in?
Well, I guess it comes down to how much do you want to win, and Newcastle United fans haven't won a big trophy since the FA Cup in 1955. And I think many supporters, if they were told that selling the rights of the stadium to make more money would help us, give us a better chance of winning trophies, then I think that they would be for it.
Pat, can you see why Newcastle fans are angry?
Absolutely. I was mortified really when I see the report in the paper that Ashley was thinking of changing, or what I would see as selling out, and having such a famous stadium renamed the JB Sports Stadium, or whatever it's going to be today or tomorrow. I actually couldn't believe it. I mean, that's one of the iconic grounds in league football, and I think it would be a real shame to lose the name St James's Park. Much the same as I feel just as strongly that White Hart Lane is Tottenham's ground, and it should always be that.
But is that the issue, Pat? It's the renaming of an old ground. Of course, Spurs there's talk about them getting a new ground, and would you mind that having a different name?
No, I want to see the name White Hart Lane kept. I mean, I've been a Spurs fan since I was a kid. To me, it's White Hart Lane, and to me, it always should be White Hart Lane. And I don't think the name of the club should be sold out for a few quid at the end of the day. And I think the guy from the States is probably right. The amount of money that it raises probably isn't really worth it. And I think the fans overall would really like to see the name of their club, the ground of their club, stay the same. I know I do.
Well, let me bring you a couple messages that have come in on our Facebook page. Neil Bourne says, in theory, it should lead to a better product on the pitch. So what's the fans' complaint? Michael Agusi on Facebook has said the fans should understand that for their smaller club to compete very well with the bigger ones, they've got to match their spending ability. It has to be said that's not been the view outside St James's Park this week. Let's have a listen.
It's absolutely disgusting. He's just playing the boot for. We're filling his pockets to come to the matches every weekend, and he's doing this to her. And it's absolutely disgusting. I'm not happy with it at all.
There's more to football than money. There's pride. This is the home of the club. This is the home of Newcastle United.
Welcome back, Mohsin, who is a Newcastle fan who joins us in London. Is there a difference here, Mohsin, between the stadium and, say, a shirt sponsorship deal?
I think there is a difference, and that's probably part of the reason that a lot of fans are angry. Sponsorship on the shirts it's widespread. It's all, everyone has it apart from international matches, and I think a lot of fans would have been fine to see more branding on shirts. It would have made the shirts look a bit more ugly, but if it was possible to not rebrand the stadium and put more advertising on the shirts, everyone would be fine with that. However, having said that, I do see Mike Ashley's point of view. As much as it pains me to say, it does make financial sense in one respect. I mean, if you look at Chelsea, for example, they've got millions. Roman Abramovich isn't short of a few bob, but he's considering rebranding Stamford Bridge, which is an existing stadium. So I think that's quite an interesting thing to take note of. I think the only difference is the way that Mike Ashley goes about his business, which is very brash and doesn't really consult the fans, and that, I think, is what angers us most.
I think going back to that, it is a financially sound decision because, I mean, obviously Mike Ashley has been in trouble with his business, Sports Direct. He has come out and even said it, and it's been in the papers that they have been losing money. But the supporters are never going to support this, and the owners are always going to support this because the owners have...
Oh, we seem to have a few line issues there, as can happen on this programme. Let me bring in this point from Kristen on EPL Talk. Says the last 3 months have seen so many positive stories emanate from Newcastle, which makes this latest development harder to swallow because in the eyes of many, it eradicates the good work that has gone before. But Jason, you can see why Mike Ashley's done it now, because he's striking while the iron is hot and Newcastle are a tempting prospect.
Well, it's certainly a good time to bury bad news, and I think that's certainly a part of it. Also, they won't be playing at St James's Park, which I'm going to keep calling it for a while. But, it just begs the question, what else is for sale from your football club? And is success that important that nothing is sacred anymore? And I think you can hear the passion from the fans. And it's obviously a decision that's hard for them to take, but from a businessman's point of view, he's doing business.
That's an interesting point, Mohsin. Let me put that to you. Will it make any difference what you call St James's Park?
Still be calling it St James Park, and everyone else still will be. And that is an interesting point. Which corporate is actually going to stump up any money when they're fully aware of the fact that everyone will still call it St James's Park? I mean, if another corporate, well, at the moment it's Sports Direct Arena or whatever it's called. I think that in itself is a bad move by Ashley by sticking his brand there when that's not generating any revenue for the club.
Are Newcastle fans more upset because he's stuck his brand on there rather than getting a new company in outright, do you think?
I'm 100% sure. I mean, I think people would be upset if it was, another brand. But the fact that it's Sports Direct, it doesn't generate any revenue. And that's exactly the point of rebranding the stadium. So if you're sticking Sports Direct on and you're not generating any revenue, what is the point? I think what he should have done was take the Chelsea approach, mention that, we're looking at the idea of renaming the stadium, and if a decent enough offer comes through, then maybe we'll consider it. But he's so brash with his decisions, and I think that's really what infuriates us all.
OK, Mohsin, thank you for now. What's in a name? Please do get in touch with us. Maybe send us a tweet using the hashtag SWHYS. Loads of calls coming in as well from Ethiopia, France, Tunisia, Greece, Saudi Arabia and Germany, to name just a few. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Hello, you're watching Sports World Have Your Say with me, Amanda Davis. I've got Jason Roberts in the studio with me this week, waiting to talk to you. I've also got Messer, a Barcelona fan based in Lebanon, and Pat, who's a Spurs fan based in Cyprus, with me. Loads of you getting in touch. We're talking what's in a name, or how far is too far when it comes to sponsorship after Mike Ashley's decision this week with St James's Park. Loads of you giving us a call from the USA, Spain, Nigeria, Jamaica, Somalia. Leslie has posted on our Facebook page, St James's Park is more than just a name. It's a legacy for the fans and the city itself, a landmark full of good, happy and at times some sad memories. Well, Messer, let me bring you in as a Barcelona fan who have their own issues in terms of sponsorship and fans' ownership. What's your view on this, Messer?
For us as Barcelona fans, when they announced the sponsorship for the football shirt with Qatar Foundation, it was really a big disappointment for us because the club has been sufficient in itself without a sponsor on the shirt for 111 years, and it's part of the tradition of the club and part of its identity. So for the president to go and strike this deal so suddenly for the sake of getting more money for transfers, it's just something that I personally can't understand because, you know, Barcelona is different from other clubs. It doesn't have an owner. It's owned by its members, it's owned by its fans, and it's about being sufficient in ourselves. And the club has depended on homegrown talent, and they've been so successful in the past 3 years, winning 12 or 13 trophies just with their homegrown players. I don't understand what the dire need is for more money for transfers to make, which is the reason that Marcel, the president, gave for this sponsorship deal. I mean, we don't need it, and it's just like throwing 111 years of tradition out the window, you know?
With the emergence of Man City spending so much money on players, would you be happy for that to happen if you can now compete with them in the transfer market, if needed?
I don't think it's needed. You know, you look at Barcelona now, and they're like the most successful team in the world at the moment, and they've just won the Champions League. They won the Champions League in 2009 also. Depending on homegrown talent, the team that beat Manchester United in the Champions League final had 7 homegrown players on the pitch. The team that beat Real Madrid 5-0 had 7 homegrown players on the pitch as well. The club doesn't need to compete in the transfer market. They're doing well on their own. I don't see what the need is to compete.
I can assure you that was Messa talking, even if we couldn't see her. I suppose, Jason, finally, if a club like Barcelona needs to get the sponsorship in terms of financing the club, then teams like Newcastle, you can understand why they do it.
Well, this is the issue. With so much money coming into the game, especially you look at Man City, how do you compete? So I guess it's a conundrum for these clubs. I mean, Barcelona, yes, they're doing fantastic with the players they've brought up, but if they do need to compete, then they have to be able to react to that. And I guess, you know, it may be tradition, but in terms of a business model, I can understand why they've done it.
OK, well, we'll give the final word on this subject to Marcos from Rio. He's posted on our Facebook site saying, Mike Ashley is a businessman, so he runs the club as a firm. The results on the pitch have been good. I believe that he's been doing a good job despite the mistakes that he's made since he took over the club. Please do get in touch with us. Have your say maybe on Twitter using the hashtag SWHYS. But perhaps the least surprising story of this week was Carlos Tevez failing to turn up for training with Manchester City. It's led to a fair amount of discussion amongst managers this week. And in his column in The Independent, Ian Holloway has criticised Tevez, saying the likes of Tevez with his self-centred attitude, certainly a modern day thing and a problem that's on the increase. It's down to how much they get paid and how that makes them feel, how important it makes them think they are. Jason, I suppose I should come to you. Defend the players. Well,
I think it's a harsh view, in my opinion. I think since football's began, you've had players who are motivated by different things. And certainly, you know, you may have the goal scorer who's motivated by scoring goals and not really thinking about the team. So I think there's different facets within a team, and it's hard to say that it's a modern day problem. Certainly the money may be a fair argument, but I think it's always been the issue that some players are motivated by different things. Certainly some people are more self-centred than others, but if they do the job on the pitch, that's the main thing. I think with the Tevez situation, it's time for him to move on and maybe for the club to move on, because there's no doubt he's a fantastic player and he's being wasted, not being used.
Jason, for me, I think Tevez is a disgrace. I don't see how a player who's paid £180,000 or £190,000 a week can sit on the bench and ignore his manager's request to play. I think that's a massive, massive insult to the fans. And I really, if I was Mancini and I was Man City, Tevez would be in the reserves, and that's where he would stay. I don't think there's any justification at all for the way Tevez has conducted himself, and I think he's brought nothing but shame upon himself at the end of the day.
With Manchester City, for me, with Tevez, is something I think that we're going to start to see a lot, because they're bringing in all these world-class players. There's only 11 spots on the pitch that they can put people in that. And so they have so many guys like Nasri, Bill, guys.
Okay, we're struggling with that line there again. I think we've got Shivam on the phone though, who's called in from Dubai. What point do you want to make about player power?
Firstly, Carlos Tevez cannot be put in the reserves. I think there's a clause in his contract that says he cannot. And secondly, what I would do with Tevez, I would sell him as soon as possible, even for for free. And Man City can't afford it, but it would be the best thing to do.
I was at a meeting of the League Managers Association, or an event this week. There were quite a few managers and former managers there, and there was a bit of a recurring theme that the job of management now has changed dramatically. And I know you've got some interesting views, Jason, on the impact of agents, and now it's agents generally who are king rather than the managers.
Well, I think certainly you've seen it with Tevez, when the relationship with the agent is that close that actually the agent is telling the player what to do, not the manager. Certainly, my problem with the Carlos Tevez affair is this is, certainly for someone within football, this is not new. This is something that has always happened through football. Maybe not such a big situation, but this has happened. Now, I think for everyone's right of mind, I think Carlos Tevez, the best thing Man City can do is move him on. I think they should have sold him in the summer. They haven't, and that's led to this situation. Now, Carlos Tevez shouldn't have acted the way he did, but at the end of the day, from my point of view, it's better that he moves on.
We love having you here on Sports World Have Your Say, Jason, but should players be allowed to do so much outside their football?
For sure, from my point of view, I think it helps. I think there may be situations where it might take away a little bit from the game. But like I said, I think there's so much more media, so many people are talking more about football now, that these things have always happened. You know, players have had arguments with the managers and refused to play and not turned up for the bus, and, you know, all these things happen. I think with the Carlos Tevez situation, what happened was it happened in the media spotlight. Everyone was watching the game. And I think that's what's really blown this situation into what it is. And there's no doubt Carlos reacted wrongly, and hopefully the situation will be sorted soon.
And Mohsin, it seems to have gone quite well for Newcastle this season in terms of the players working together as a team. They disprove this point, I suppose.
Yeah, I think Newcastle's a classic example of where you don't need some superstar players to perform well as the team. By all admission, we don't have any superstars, but we're third in the league, flying high and actually playing well. That I think is the key. Grinding out good results, and if anything like that happened, like with Tevez, I think you need a manager who's strong enough to actually stamp his authority and tell the player that you're out of order, and therefore you're not going to be in the first team. No matter how much you're earning, it doesn't really make any difference. And I think the stance that Mancini's taken and Manchester City as a whole have taken on this is spot on.
OK, Mohsin, I'm afraid that's where I'm going to cut in. We have run out of time for this week's Sports World Have Your Say, but don't forget to carry on the conversation on Twitter and Facebook throughout the week. Thank you to Jason, as ever, for joining us, and we will be back same time, same place next week, right here on BBC World News. Goodbye.